Hey everybody, we are super excited to be introducing you to, or reintroducing you to, the Green Bay Trail today, leaving out of Kenilworth. We're really excited about this video for a few reasons. One of them is it's our debut of using our new electric scooter to shoot a video. So we hope that that's going to make for a smoother ride for you guys as well as for us. And it's also one of our favorite trails. We'll talk a little bit about why that is. But personally, I too have been using this for doing a lot of long training runs. So if you're a runner that's looking for a place that actually has amenities during COVID, there's some great reasons to think about going and doing some runs on this trail, not the least of which is going to be at least one bathroom that I'll point out to you and a place to get water. So all of these good reasons to consider checking out this gorgeous and historic trail.
So we're going to start off here. We are in the northernmost parking lot of the Kenilworth train station. You can park in either one. The parking here is free on weekdays after 4 or 5, and it is free on the weekends all the time. What we're going to do here is show you probably the slightly longer but easier way to get to that southernmost point of the Green Bay Trail from the Kenilworth parking lot. There's two ways to go. One of them, you can actually, we're going out through this park, you can actually stay on the back side of this school that we would be coming up to just ahead and meander through the back parking lot and a couple of municipal buildings to get on the trail. But it's a little less well signed and probably subject to closures sometimes. I've seen that happen a couple times. So we're going to show you this easier but slightly longer way. So we just headed to the east, and the first major road after that park to the north of the train station, and then it's very simple. You're just going to head north again, and we're going to be passing along the front side of that school. It's really easy to tell that you're going in the right direction because you'll see the school come up almost immediately, and this is the Joseph Sears School, so it's a pretty good landmark for you. Once we pass this school, we're going to be passing just a handful of more houses. We'll jog back to the west. So right now we're paralleling the train tracks and also Green Bay Road and what will be the Green Bay Trail. And we're just going to have to jog back to the west about a half a block to actually get on that trail. So we passed the school now. Here's that handful of houses, and we'll be making that jog to the left back here at this intersection. Here it is. And then once we go past these couple of houses, it's going to look like the road just ends at this next road. In fact, you'll see right there to the left, that's your entrance to the trail, and you'll find that 00 marker to the left just after you go up this little hill, and then you can just turn to the right to head back north again. So the Green Bay Trail, as far as we know, has been being used for thousands of years. There's evidence that people hunted prehistoric animals here. We know that indigenous folks were using this as a major thoroughfare before white settlers arrived. So it's really neat to think when you're on this trail about how many generations came before you. I really enjoy the historic aspect of this. And of course, it also then, as so many other indigenous trails, became a railroad. There were actually two different lines that ran here in the early 1800s, and we're going to see a lot of railroad stations as we pass, which is another thing that makes it nice for runners, right? There's several places here that you very quickly and easily intersect with civilization should you need it. So the first one that we're going to come up to here is Indian Hill. You just saw a sign there to your right that said Green Bay Trail. Each of the towns that the trail runs through maintains its portion of the trail. So you'll see different signs as we go into the different municipalities. This entire section that we're going to be showing actually is about 4 miles from the southernmost part of the Kenilworth parking lot to the Glencoe station, which is where we're going to then go off and do a little bit of extra exploring. You're going to see that these railroad stations look as though they are coming up pretty quickly. That's mostly because of the editing, but there's about half a mile between Kenilworth and Indian Hill, this first one, and then there's going to be about another mile between Indian Hill and Winnetka, which is the next one that you'll see, and then about another probably over a mile until you get to Hubbard Woods, which will be the last one before Glencoe. You'll see here on the right side of the path, there's a nice limestone surface for running on. It makes it really, really nice if you don't want to be pounding that pavement the entire time. It's one of the main reasons that I like this one for doing longer distances. You know, when you're getting up into those double digits and you really want to be being gentle on the joints. It's very nice. So here's Winnetka coming up, and then we'll see Hubbard Woods here in just a little bit. This entire portion of the rail line and of the trail itself are in what's called the Big Ditch. So in the early 1900s, there were on average 1 death every year from people trying to cross the tracks when the railroad was at grade. So in the 1930s, I believe, they dug this huge gully and put the rail line in there, and there were massively fewer accidents as a result. So it's really nice and shady down in here, so it's another bonus for runners that I've come to really appreciate during this hot summer for sure. You're going to see along the side here, there will be several signs for, trail restoration, for volunteer work days. There's going to be, after we pass Hubbard Woods, a little monarch hatchery during the summer where they'll tell you how many caterpillars they have, how many monarchs they've released, and how many chrysalises they currently have. And here you'll see we're entering Glencoe. That's that white sign on the right. You'll also see we're going to come up here in a little ways to actually the largest garden that I know of on this part of the path, which is the Glencoe Community Garden. So you'll see some little outbuildings here on the left-hand side. Some of this path you won't have the option to run on limestone. There is going to be a little bit of pavement, so if you're really sensitive to that, it's definitely something that you should know about in advance. One of the things that we have come to really like about this scooter that we're on is that it's so incredibly quiet. So we've actually seen a lot of wildlife just in the few days that we've had it. I think in part because things don't necessarily hear us coming as much as they would if we were running and pounding the pavement or biking. This portion of the path, just to point out, and we just passed the main entrance to the Glencoe Community Garden, this portion of the path is all limestone. So if you mind having to clean that off of your bike or off of your scooter, then just know that there is going to be a little bit of limestone grit here for sure. You're going to see after we pass this limestone section that we're actually going to be on pavement for quite a while. So a big chunk of the path in Glencoe actually means that you're running along either the concrete sidewalk or basically through roads, and there's not a ton of traffic. I've always felt really safe running there, but just know that you don't have limestone the entire way. We did try to get off the path here when we could just to get away from some of that limestone dust because it was really, really kicking up. Once we get through this portion where it looks like you're going along a street, here we're riding back and forth to get some of the dust off the tires, it's going to actually look as though the trail just kind of ends. So don't give up, keep running along this section. We just scared that robin. That's one of our wildlife encounters for the day, and we're going to see a cat here in just a moment. It's going to look like this street is just going to dead end, and you'll actually see some signs that imply that it does, which it does for cars. But just keep the faith, keep going. The path itself for bikes and runners does continue, and it's going to take us up into another very long parking lot, which is the one for the Glencoe railway station. So one thing to know is that there is a lot of parking lot to get through, but once you get there, you have a real payoff because you're going to have an aid station for filling your water bottle. It would normally also have a water fountain and also a restroom. So here's the portion that I was talking about where it's going to appear that you're just running out of path to run on, but if you just go past these signs, there's a cat on the left that we managed to scare up. It absolutely did not hear us coming until the last minute. Stay on this path, and then you're going to come to this busy road. This is just at the south end of the Glencoe station parking lot. You do want to stop here for sure if you're on a wheeled vehicle, because cars can come through here pretty fast and they won't necessarily see you, although they're used to things crossing here. So you can either walk up a little dirt path that's in front of you, or we're going to go on this slightly less steep sidewalk path instead. And we'll come around, and I do give you a little bit of a view of the parking lot so you can just see it really is long, and you won't even see the station at first because the southern parking lot is really quite extensive. When we get up to the station, you'll see that and so we kind of just erased part of that parking lot so you didn't have to watch the whole thing, but there would be a water station here on your right, just at the stop sign, and then the station itself is across the way. You're going to see here at the station there's a lot that's really reminiscent of Jens Jensen School of landscape architecture, and there are actually several features that were constructed by him and designed by him that are along the Green Bay Trail. So if you're interested in that kind of architectural and design history, you should definitely keep your eyes open. And what we're about to see after the station is we're going to go into time-lapse mode, because at this point we just decided to start exploring a little bit more, which is another neat thing about the scooter, is it gives us a lot more freedom to explore with ease and more quickly than we would do on a bike or on foot. So we're going to do a little bit of that just to show you some of the highlights that you can see if you choose to go off the trail a bit. But just to give you a preview, one of the first ones that we're going to see here is actually a historic Frank Lloyd Wright cottage called the Booth Cottage. And it's important in part because it was connected to a development that he did called Ravine Bluffs. And so once you go past the Booth Cottage, and I'll point that out in a moment, you're going to see in rapid succession about 3 Frank Lloyd Wrights, and then the only bridge that he ever constructed. So this is a neat little corner of Glencoe. It's really quiet, but from an architectural standpoint, really important. And it's interesting to see how different the houses are and kind of how they've aged and fared differently. So that was the Booth Cottage on the right. Just went by very, very quickly. And then coming up on the right, you're going to see them just flashing by 3 Frank Lloyd Wrights in a row. And then here is his one and only bridge. So we turned onto Maple Hill to get to these if you're interested in seeing them off of Glencoe. Because we're going to go back and forth in some of these side streets quite a bit, I'm not going to try to name each of them off, but we're basically just going back and forth along Sheridan. So whenever you see this double yellow line, that's going to be Sheridan Road. I also wanted to include here the fact that we had to do a lot of turnarounds. So we just wanted to get to the lake and have a little view of the lake. And one thing that's very interesting is that many people here have built right up to the lake. So you get a lot of private drives, signs that say no trespassing, whereas in Chicago, of course, that wouldn't be allowed, and it really kind of flies in the face of the idea of the lakefront being free and open to all. But it's a very different piece of the vibe up here if you're used to having some of that better access that you would have maybe further south and closer to the city. We also found that a lot of things were closed off because of construction. So I'm not sure if more construction's been happening because COVID gave the cities and villages a chance to do some of this construction when there's a little bit less traffic, or if it's just normal summer construction. But we did find that several bridges were closed to motorized vehicles, but we were able to go across. We just walked the scooter up along the sidewalk here. And there was another, we think Frank Lloyd Wright, but we couldn't find documentation that we found right there. This is one place that you do have public beach access here at Glencoe Beach. It's usually open to the public. I think parking is for residents only. Here we're heading back south, so we decided to go ahead and hit the trail again. We're going to get off twice and show you a couple of different areas that you can go and check out. One's going to be at Hubbard Woods. Hubbard Woods is the intersection here between Glencoe and Winnetka. There's a lot of beautiful houses. There's tons of ravines, so really just the nature here and the way that it's been used in sort of the design of the lots is really, really interesting. And we're going to putter around here for a moment and then get back on the trail, and you'll see it was getting dark enough that we're going to have our light on. The next place that we're going to get off is a place that I like to explore because it's a little bit more modest in terms of the size of the houses and the size of the lots. And so to me, it makes me feel like, oh yeah, there's just some, normal everyday folks that live here. And it's an interesting antidote to some of the areas of Winnetka and Kenilworth and Wilmette that are just incredibly affluent. It's usually ranked as one of the most affluent places in the country. So I really encourage you to get off and explore in this area that we're going to see next, which is between Indian Hill and Winnetka, or actually the way that we're going, which is now south, it would be between Winnetka and Indian Hill, because of course you would come to Winnetka next. So that's going to be this little loop-de-loop that we're about to do. And then almost immediately, we're going to be coming back into the Kenilworth parking lot. We're going to do a little perambulation of the parking lot and wrap up. But I gotta say, this is a really easy, really fun outing to do. It's a place that's close to our hearts, and we hope that it will be to yours too. Thanks.